Hello and welcome to the channel. Today I will show you how to sew a traditional box shirt. This is the pattern we'll be using and it's available on our website. It has the shirt pattern, sleeve pattern, and the Ntiag pattern. First we will cut out our shirt base, and I'm going to be using plain black fabric for that. You'll want to make sure that you fold over your shirt fabric and then line up the fold on the pattern to the fold on your fabric before you cut up your fabric. You'll also want to use your shirt pattern to cut out a lining. I used pink fabric here for the lining, and I do apologize because the camera doesn't like to focus on this pink, so we're kind of going in and out on the focus here. We are going to layer our shirt fabric on the bottom and then our lining fabric on top, and make sure that the folds are on top of each other. Then we're going to lay our pattern on top, and we're going to take a piece of tailor chalk and mark where the notches are for our armhole on both sides. We'll remove our pattern, and then we are going to take some pins and pin our lining to our shirt. And then we are going to sew our side seams together. Make sure that you don't sew into the armhole. If you happen to sew into the armhole, you can go ahead and just take out that stitch. I'm starting at the bottom on the side of the shirt, and I'm going to sew all the way up to my chalk marking where my notch is, and make sure I backstitch at that spot. This is what my shirt looks like now that these side seams are sewn together. You can see the armhole openings here are not sewn together, but everything under that is sewn together. Now I'm going to take some black fabric and take my black sleeve pattern and cut out 2 black sleeves. I'm going to take my blue sleeve pattern and cut out 2 blue sleeves. This blue sleeve acts as a lining, but it is also the part of the blue sleeve cuff that flips over on this traditional shirt. Once we have our sleeve pieces cut out, we will sew the black to the blue, one for each side of the shirt, so 2 pairs of sleeves, and the blue part should be slightly bigger than the black. Once you have your sleeve pieces sewn together, go in with an iron and press the seam flat. Here's our sleeve. What we're going to do is match the good side to the good side, blue on blue, black on black, and then we're going to match the seam and pin that together. And then we're going to finish pinning all the way across on both sides, and this is where we're going to sew our sleeve closed. Here is our sleeve that we've sewn closed. What we're going to do is flip it right side out, and then we're going to press this seam nice and flat. Next, I'm going to reach into one side of the sleeve all the way across to the other side and pull that other side through so that the raw edges are matching up with each other. I'm going to match up the side seams here, and then I'm going to flatten out any wrinkles and any bulk so that the sleeve is nice and flat. And then I'm going to iron the sleeve opening side flat. We are now going to sew our sleeve into our shirt, and to do that you will need to pull your sleeve out so that it's one long piece again. And then I'm going to start with the black sleeve on the black side of the shirt. So what you're going to do is find the opening on the bottom of the shirt, pull your black sleeve all the way through up into the armhole section, and then you're going to match the seam on the sleeve to the bottom seam of the armhole where the side seam ends and the armhole starts, and then you're going to pin that together. You'll continue pinning the sleeve to the armhole, and you'll pin all the way around. I know it's a little hard to see the black on black, but we'll also be doing this to the lining and the blue sleeve, so you'll be able to see it better. For best results, you do not want any gaps between the sleeve and the armhole. If there is a gap and one part is bigger than the other, go to the sewing machine and make it bigger or make it smaller so that they are perfectly lined up. Next, you'll head over to the sewing machine and sew the sleeve to the armhole. You'll see that you can actually use the stitches in your side seam as a guide on where to start sewing your sleeve and armhole closed. Now you've attached the black sleeve to the black part of your shirt, and what we're going to do is pull the sleeve all the way through so that the blue comes out. And then we're going to attach the blue sleeve to the lining of the shirt. It'll be the same process. You'll want to find the seam of your blue sleeve and match that up to the bottom of the armhole where the side seam starts. You're going to pin this together and all the way around. And again, if you have a gap, then you'll want to adjust the sleeve so that it's either bigger or smaller to fit your armhole. Here's our shirt with our sleeves fully sewn in. The black is attached to the black and the blue is attached to the lining. And we're going to repeat this process on the other side to sew our other sleeve on. Here's what the shirt looks like once we have both sleeves sewn in, the blue to the lining and the black sleeve to the black shirt. Now that we have our sleeves set, we are going to flip our shirt right side out. And to do that, you'll want to reach in between the two black layers of your shirt at the bottom and then pull your sleeves through the bottom of your shirt. Here's what the shirt looks like once it is flipped and you fix your sleeves so they're nice and neat. The front and the back will be exactly the same, and the layers in between will be black, pink, pink, and black, or shirt, lining, lining, shirt. Make sure you iron your side seams nice and flat, and then don't forget to press your armholes also nice and flat. Now that we've pressed our shirt nice and flat, we can move on to the next step, which is to find the center of the shirt so that we can split it open. What we're going to do is lay our pattern on top of our shirt, make sure that it is centered, and then we are going to put some fabric weights on this just so that it doesn't move around. I'm going to use a ruler to lay on top of the center front line, and then I'm going to flip my pattern over and then chalk in that straight edge. Make sure that you continue that center line towards the back as well for the dacha opening. Once our chalk line is in, we can now split the shirt open. Make sure you are only doing one black layer and one lining layer. Do not cut into all four pieces because your shirt will be ruined. Cut along the chalk line from the bottom all the way to the top and into the back, as well as the sideways cuts for ludachal. Make sure these sideways cuts are only about ½ inch on each side. You'll adjust this later when you have your dachal on hand and you can size it. Next, I'm going to take my dia pattern and cut out 2 dia pieces. I have interfaced my dia pieces so that they are more stable. Now we're going to pin them to the openings on our shirt and sew them on. And to do that, you're going to make sure that the good side of the dia is facing the good side of your shirt. And I'm going to start pinning from the top on this side, and I'm folding the dia down ½ inch so that I'll have a nice edge later at the top. And then I'm going to make sure I pin dia to the shirt and the lining all together from top to bottom. You'll want to repeat this process on the other side. After sewing on your ntiag on both sides, you will want to flip this open and iron the seam flat on both sides. Now that you have the seam flat ironed, you're going to go back in and flip your ntiag all the way over to the lining side and iron it again. Now that your ntiag is nicely pressed, we're going to go in with a ruler and measure 2.5 inches from the edge and chalk mark a line there. Your ntiag size might be different, so you may want to check your pattern, but for this one it's 2.5 from the edge. So we're going to chalk mark from top to bottom for this next step. Now we are going to fold on that chalk line and iron our ntiag flat. This will close up the raw edge on the ntiag. Now we're going to go in with some pins and pin our ntiag in place. This will make it much easier to sew the ntiag without having to keep fixing it because this angle on this box shirt is kind of awkward at the top. Now that our dia is sewn on, I'm going to serge the bottom of my shirt closed. This is the only raw edge that there is, so we're going to close it up. And then once I finish serging it, I'm going to actually go over to the sewing machine and flip the hem up and close that hem as well so that the stitches are not showing. This is the final product. You can see this is a box style with black on the outside, a pink lining, and my blue dia, as well as blue flip cuffs. This is without the dachal attached, so we'll do another video for that.